Um, Bam. Hey, Gavin, how are you? What's new? What's exciting? Um, yes, that's right. Have you been on campus yet? Looks like I'm going down there this afternoon, so um, kind of curious to see how many people are there. Not too much. Yeah, no, I got my COVID test yesterday, and so I'm clear to return to campus. Yay! I know I don't sound like it, but I do not have the COVID, so that's good. But yeah, it looks like I don't know. We'll have to think about what we're gonna do here. So this class is a hybrid, and so maybe we'll talk about that some today. I actually, you know what? I'll put a poll out. Let's do that. Um, but that's the only exciting thing in my life right now. So um, March Madness is coming up, so I'll have to start thinking about my bracket. So Gonzaga's looking good like usual. So I think I've probably picked them. Oh, probably 4 of the last 5 years. So, hey Ashley, how are you? Abby, how are you? Good to see you. What's new? What's exciting? Hopefully not too much. Yeah, so once I sit down and we pen it in, because when does that start? It's like 2, 3 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. I'll show you my bracket and we'll see how it goes. So, I actually get my mom to help me with it. My mom's like really up to speed on college basketball for some reason. That and pro football, so she knows the things, and the Rockies. So she watches the Rockies religiously. And so if there's ever any questions about what's going on with the Rockies, I just ask my mom. Ah, glad to hear it, Abby. Daisy, how are you? Good to see you. That's good to hear, Ashley. So I'm doing good. Uh, telling Gavin here that I got my COVID test yesterday and I passed. So I guess that means I was negative. So yeah, I guess passing the COVID test would. I guess you could interpret that a couple different ways, huh? So yeah, I'll be going back down to campus this afternoon for stats class. Yay! So I know some of you are in both classes, and I'm sorry if you're a little bit confused, but I did say we would do this one here on Monday, so I didn't want to confuse those of you who weren't in the class or the other class. And so here we are back on the YouTubes for today. But we're gonna hop in the car after this, drive on down to Pueblo, and see what's going on. So I went down there yesterday for the first time since like October, I think. So I think October was the last time I was actually on campus. Yeah, the last time we all got scared online. And man, it was ghost town. It was absolutely a ghost town. Hey, Marcus, how are you? So good to see you. Excuse me. All right, so plan for the day, pretty straightforward. We're gonna polish off chapter 6 here. We need a trivia topic, so because we're gonna do trivia today, and then I want to kind of check out and see what's going on campus. But I'm gonna put up a poll later today or maybe tomorrow to kind of get a guess of how many of you are interested in coming to campus, and that includes the people who aren't on the live stream. So because attendance is starting to do a little bit of this, but that's normal for this time of the semester, so I don't worry about it too much just quite yet. But hey, David, how are you? But I kind of want to get a gauge for what we want to keep doing since we are cleared to come back to campus now. And this class is purely lecture based. Yeah, I'm going to put a poll together and then I'll share the results. We'll kind of discuss them a little bit and see what we're going to do. Ideally, I'd like to get some FaceTime in, but if I'm the only person there, then it's fine that we're just here too. So we'll just have to see. And so I'm gonna put a little poll together, and if you're interested in actually doing discussion-based stuff in the class, either coming to campus or doing it, I think we're booked in the Zoom room because this class is supposed to run in tandem with one that was supposed to be broadcast to the Tower campus up in Colorado Springs. And so that makes life a lot easier. And so even if you don't want to come and we do decide to start having some classes on campus, then you can phone in to those via Zoom. And so, again, that will be Wednesdays. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, Riet. I'm not sure. So I have gotten conflicting messages, and so I will try and clarify that. I know that if you're in certain groups on campus, so if you're an athlete, the answer to that is yes. If you work in the health center or the rec center, the answer is yes. And there was another one. I can't remember. There was another one that, it was mandatory tests. And I think it's more than weekly. If there's any athletes out there, speak up. Let me know. Because I'm not quite sure. Hey, Matt, how are you? Yeah, because I'm not quite sure exactly how that's supposed to go. I think, initially the idea was that everybody needed to be tested every single week, but then I think when the county went to blue on the COVID terrorism wheel, so I don't know. You guys might be a little bit, you might not remember that. Some of you who maybe were a little bit older at the time, if you remember that after 9/11 we had the blue, the orange, the yellow, and the green levels of terror threat, and they stuck it at orange, and I think it's been there forever. And so, when they're talking about this stuff with COVID now, for those of you who are, very, very young or maybe not even born, oh my gosh, yeah, some of you might not even been born at the time. Now you have your own terrorism wheel to think about. So, but anyway, oh, okay, yeah, and extra security on 9/11. Yeah, I was actually working in the airlines in 9/11. And so it was absolute bloody chaos the couple weeks after that. Just with first of all, they shut the entire thing down for 3 days, and then after that, it was okay, we got to search everybody's bags, and you had to understand that we had never done that before. Okay, so yeah, your carry-on bags before then did go through the X-ray machine, and that was about it. So, but then anything, anything that you checked, as long as it didn't have hazmat in it, and the only way we'd find that out is if we lost your bag and had to open it or something like that. And so that was the only times we'd search luggage before 9/11. And the day that we were allowed to come back, 3 days later when they opened up the air system, they said, okay, you got to search every bag. And so, I was writing tickets one day, and the next day I was going through people's underwear. It was crazy. So, oh, you were at the Chem Depot, yeah. So yeah, no, you would remember that then, because I'm sure that would actually affect that quite a bit. But that's okay. Let's see, testing by scheduling. Yeah, okay. No, thanks for adding that. I know you have to do a schedule test in order to get back onto campus the first time. I did mine yesterday. It was super fast. They took 5 minutes. And for me, it's an hour drive down there, so it was an hour down there and then 5 minutes, and I was like, should I go home? should I go see if Kerr's Tavern is open? I don't know. So, but so yeah, that's super fast. But then after that, I don't know what the requirements are as far as Yeah, as far as like regular testing, I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea, and they don't charge you for it. So yeah, I would definitely do it, but I don't know if that's mandatory, unless you're in one of those groups that I mentioned before. I know that's true for athletes, but I just don't know how frequent it needs to be. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, no worries, Jeff. Yeah. Oh, so you're on campus. How was it? So is it a ghost town? So I'll find out here with my stats class in a couple hours when I head down there. But like I said, we'll put up a poll, and I'll want to see how many of you would be actually interested in coming to campus, as opposed towards just staying at home. I'm gonna make it so that it's fine either way. All right. So this class is gonna be fine either way, and so if we're gonna meet on campus like on Wednesdays, we will definitely stay on YouTube on Mondays. Um, and then with the campus meetings, we're in the Zoom room, so we might just Zoom. All right, so on those days, and so we'll do the discussions. And if you're there for those, then I'll totally give you credit for any of the discussion posts in the this guy here, the discussion forums. And so that's the way that it'll work. We'll still do trivia on Mondays, so you can get some free points there. And maybe we'll do some on Wednesdays too, so using Kahoot, all right, which is kind of fun. I used to do that a lot in the past, and so that one, you can't do it on YouTube because we've got like a 6-second delay, all right, just because of my shitty DSL. Pardon my French. So, oh yeah, I can talk about that. Sure, Menka. No problem. But yeah, we might do that on Wednesdays too. But like I said, watch for a poll. I'm going to put it up here on Blackboard the next day or two, and so just knock that out, and then we'll talk about it on Monday. All right. So with the results and whatnot. So Mega asked here like critical thinking case, and so just click on this guy right here, and this is due this Monday, and so I haven't looked at the grades in a little bit for this class. So since we only have work due every other week, and so I don't know how many of you have done this, but if you haven't done it yet, so just remember, this is all you need to do is place following title information, bullet point font, and name, date, class, and section number. Since we do have 2 sections in this class, this is section 001, so that's fine. I think the other one's online, so none of you would be on that one. Yeah, no, the other one's the 8-week class. That one's almost done. So, but anyway. And then so select any one of the cases from the critical thinking case studies at the end of the chapter of your choice. And so any one of these chapters, at the end of it, there is a critical thinking case. And so you can pick any of the chapters up to 6, because we've covered all of these here. I think we skipped 4, but you can do the one in that one if you want, but just pick one that kind of speaks to you. And so say you want to do the diversity one. So here we go. Click critical thinking case. Yeah, pop-ups are much appreciated. Thanks. And so here you go. This one's on Uber. This one's a great one. A lot of people do this one. All right. So, and then so read through the case here and then just answer the questions. I think each one of these has 3 questions. So I don't think I think it's the other book that I teach out of where you can kind of cherry pick. There's like a couple of them that only have 1 question. So, but this one, I think all the cases in this one have 3. And so just answer the questions, 2 pages on that. And then if you're concerned about formatting, I think I had yes, I have a template in here that you can use. All right. Or actually, no, I don't. Where did I put that? That might be in a different class. Oh, no, sorry, that's for my stats class. Yeah, no, that's a different thing. Don't do that. All right, so just follow the format here. All right, so name, date, class, section, number, and then just use Roman numerals in the title to identify each section, so each question, and so 1 and the question text, so I know which question you're answering. And then case studies typed, double spaced, proper indents, and then 2 pages maximum. I usually look for about 1.5 pages. If it's less than a page, you really do catch my attention, and I'll read it very carefully. So looking for mistakes and whatnot. And if it's more than 2 pages, I just read the first 2 pages. Okay, and so don't go over 2 pages. On these, really straightforward. Okay, but they are worth 50 points. Here's the rubric right here. So they are worth it's like 2.5 homeworks, so they are worth quite a bit of points, so definitely knock them out. All right, and then let's see, we're on chapter 6 today. So good question. Any other questions before we get started today? Feel free to punch them in there or while we're going, and I'll get to them today. So we are actually we're doing great in this class. All right, so we're right on track. I hope the pace is nice and chill. All right, so all the work is spread out, and it's really nice to take this class in the 16-week format because it shouldn't be beating you up too much each week. And the same thing's true with this assignment. This is one of the 2 modules where you actually have to do one of these. And next module, module 4, after this Sunday, we'll go right back to the usual pace of just 2 homeworks and 2 quizzes over 2 weeks. Okay? Hope that helps. All right. So let's dive into the back half of chapter 6 here real quick. So the other day we talked about the non-program decisions. We talked about, and just to review that, remember program decisions, these are things that you do routinely and develop heuristics, rules of thumb, blah, blah, blah. Non-programs, kind of rare decisions that come up every now and then. And then just remember that there are 2 types of decision makings, two different general families of decision-making processes. And so first one, reactive decision making. So, you go by the gut, so to speak. And then reflective decision making, where you go a little bit more rational. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the rational decision making model. I don't think actually, I think we did talk about this. Where you generate alternatives. So we don't really need to go into too much detail. I was going to give you an example of this, but maybe we'll do that in a discussion in the future. We'll see. It's just kind of easier to show it to you than it is to just blab about it. And so, actually, I've got a perfect time where we can do this. We'll have a discussion at some point in time. And there's 2 things in this class that I always try and do for every single class. Where we spend a day talking about finances and specifically personal finance, and then we spend a day talking about your career plans, okay? And so I try and bake those into every class that I teach in organizational behavior, so they do it for both this one and the organizational behavior management class in the MBA. And so we'll use the rational decision-making model when we do that and help you, kind of find that first big job. All right, which is coming. All right, it's coming for all of you soon. All right, so, but anyway, we'll use I've got a really cool tool that I'll share with you that will actually kind of walk us through all these steps. And we'll do that one when we do a discussion in the future, whether it be on Zoom or in person. So that's okay. You can do it from home. So that's all right. All right, so let's talk about barriers to effective decision making. Oh, and one more thing. We do need a trivia topic for today. So what did we do? We nerded out with Lord of the Rings. Was that one that we did? I can't remember now. So we will not be doing that. Excuse me. And so I need a trivia topic. Otherwise, we'll just go back to general trivia today. Today's going to be a short day because we only have like these couple things here. So we're going to be done within an hour today. So, but anyway, let's, what do you got? UFC? Oh, that's right. We're going to talk about UFC. Now, okay, so are you talking about like, wait a minute, UFC, let me get it right. So the UFC is the fighting league, right? Fighting championship, that's right. So, yeah, so I was almost thinking that we would do wrestling. But if you want to do UFC, I'll see if I can find something on it. I just don't know anything about it. So, yeah, I just don't know a thing about it. Obviously, I had to Google what it was. So I know some people are way into that, but I just don't know that much. Disney's a good one, too. Ooh, we could save that one for Monday. Either or, okay, yeah. Disney's a good one. I like that one. All right, we'll definitely do that one on Monday. So remind me. But yeah, you did ask for UFC the other day, so we'll give it a shot. All right, I'll see what site I can find here in a couple of minutes. But let's talk about barriers to effective decision making. Now, the first barrier that you're going to run into, and this is very true as a manager, is this concept of bounded rationality. All right, and bounded rationality just simply refers to the fact that you're never going to have perfect information to make a truly informed decision. Okay, so like think about it. In some respects, one of the things that you're going to get involved in fairly early in your career. So Okay. One of the things that you're going to bump into fairly early in your career as a manager is you're going to have to do some investigating. All right. So you're going to have to brush up on your investigative skills. And I'm not talking CSI kind of stuff here. All right. But at the same point in time, if you run into a situation where money's missing from the till, okay, or, two employees get in a fight and they both say, oh, well, it was that guy's fault. Well, no, it was that guy's fault. So you're going to have to get involved in some of this investigative stuff real fast. All right. And, most of the time it's fairly harmless, okay, but I've seen people just run themselves ragged trying to tack down every last piece of information they could so that they could make a judicious decision, in terms of punishment or in terms of praise in some respects. But bounded rationality is really, it's always going to be an operation. So especially if you're in a situation where you just can't know, okay? So, maybe there's not evidence, the evidence doesn't exist, and so you're going to have to learn to reflect some of your own judgment in these cases, all right? And so, but bounded rationality, idea complex issues cannot be completely rational, because cannot fully grasp all the alternatives, nor understand all the implications of every possible alternative. And so basically, we're going to make decisions with missing information. You're going to have to actually make decisions and live with the ambiguity behind that. And that does get a little bit frustrating at certain times, especially when the stakes are pretty high. When you get into the point in time where, well, okay, so this is a firing offense. We got to make sure that we get it right, all right? Just in case it boomerangs on us in the form of a wrongful termination lawsuit, which those don't happen terribly often. I think in my entire career, I've seen like two of those actually boomerang back around. So, it's not something that you totally fear, especially in Colorado, which is basically a right to work state. As long as it doesn't involve any of that stuff you were talking about last week, So, yeah, it's like, well, you can't work here anymore because you're a woman. That'll catch you a lawsuit real fast. All right. So, but, you're going to have to learn to live with bounded rationality. So you're just not going to know everything. And you might get some things wrong, okay? But that shouldn't like lock you up, all right? Meaning that, well, I don't know everything that I need to know, so I'm not going to make a decision. No, it's your job to make decisions, especially as a manager. So, learn to trust your own judgment in some respects, all right? But understand bounded rationality is a real thing. All right. And so it does lead people to, making, effective decisions or less effective decisions in some respects. It's just something you have to live with. Now, one thing that you can do something about is this next guy right here, which is called Escalation of Commitment. It's a tendency of decision makers to remain committed to a poor decision, even when doing so leads to increasingly negative outcomes. We are all guilty of this in some respects. And so start looking for ways in your life where maybe you're doing this and you haven't really realized it, but it's basically once you've made a decision on something and it turns out to be a poor decision, but you double down on it because, you just must be right about this, or you're going to wait it out and see how it works and stuff like that. I've got a lot of examples like this that have nothing to do with work, all right? But, still at the same point in time, I know someone. He's a very good friend of mine. So, and he bought this car that, it's a fantastic car. I mean, it's a sexy car and everything like that. And man, he's just having trouble with it because it's brand spanking new and it's a different make, different model, different, direction in which this car manufacturer was going and things like that. And he's having trouble with it. And, I mean, you put a lot of money into something like that because it's not a cheap car, okay? So, but after, you watch this happening for 6 months or a year or so, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, maybe you should get rid of that. No, I'm not going to get rid of that. And so that's escalation of commitment, okay? So, it'll work out fine. It'll be all right. I made a good decision to begin with. And it's like, well, maybe you didn't. It doesn't mean you're a bad person, or anything like that. It just means that maybe you made a mistake. So, but some people don't like to hear that. And so you'll see this one on the job a lot. All right. So you'll have especially with new product rollouts and stuff like that. Sometimes you'll have a new product that, it looks really great on paper and maybe it tests really well with focus groups and stuff like that. But then you roll it out and everybody's like, what the hell is this? But then your boss is like, oh no, we gotta make sure that's a success kind of thing. That is escalation of commitment. Don't do that as a manager. The ways in which I've done this as a manager in the past is usually when I put a bat on an employee, meaning that, I gave someone a shot. On a job or something like that, impressed me in an interview, and then it turns out that they're a bad worker down the road. And, I kind of refused to accept that, because I had made a judgment call about this one individual. I remember, yeah, when I was working on the railroad, there was one guy that I hired, and he came from the airlines too. And so my heart kind of went out to him. He lost his job because of 9/11, blah, 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 all this stuff. And, I was like, yeah, I'll give you a shot. So, and he turned out to be a horrible worker. So, he was just basically just, trying to chew up time. And he wouldn't move his family out there, and he told us that he would do that, but he never did. And then at the same point in time, he was gone every weekend to go back and visit his family and stuff like that. And, he just turned out to be an awful worker. And I remember my boss at the time, his absenteeism got so bad, and he was really clever about it too, because he was there and he did all the things until he got past his probationary period, and then he just like overnight he turned into a pumpkin. So, but I refused to kind of see what was going on all the way through. His probationary period. No, he's getting it. He'll work out. He'll move his family out here eventually, stuff like that. And then he just turned, and he was a pain in the butt to get rid of. We finally were able to do it, but then, that's how my boss became aware of it. And he was like, "Why did you hire this guy?" And I mean, he saw a lot of things that I didn't see going on there, and that was because I had put my bet on him, and so yeah, I learned not to do that. So anyway, so that's another thing that leads to poor decision making. Other things, time constraints. Oftentimes, if you have to make a really big decision, and you're kind of like pressed for time on it, you're not going to make the best decision. All right. So I see this one a lot, like with people. Cars is a good example. So your car blows up, you decide to go buy a new one because you need it to get to work on Monday. Oftentimes you just like, okay, fine, this one will work, kind of thing. On the job, you're going to see a lot of people make bad decisions because they just don't have time to really think about it. And so they'll make more reactive decisions or reflexive decisions rather than reflective decisions at this point in time, and they won't work out. The other thing that you'll see on like time is sometimes the need to make a decision has like a timestamp on it, meaning you have to do this within the next week or so, but then you'll work yourself into a position where you don't think about it for 6 days. And so that 7th day, you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Blah, blah, blah. And so this is one where procrastination really is bad. Okay. So like in class and stuff like that, okay, you didn't get the paper in, or all right, you're going to take a dinger on your grade, whatnot. Stuff like that. It's not really that big of a deal. But on the job, if you do have some of those situations where it's like, no, you need to make a decision on this by this point in time, and you put it off and you don't do your homework on the decision, especially if it's one of those big non-programmed decisions, okay, and then you just make a snap judgment. Now you have to live with it the next day. And it might only be like, a couple days after where you realize, oh crap, this is a terrible decision, but you've already pulled the trigger on it. So, don't work yourself into a position where if they give you time, use the time, all right, in order to make a more effective decision. Don't put it off and force yourself into a time constraint where you're going to make a bad decision. So be very careful about that. All right, uncertainty. So that's basically the same thing as bounded rationality. So, and then personal bias. And so let's talk about this just a little bit, and then we'll go find some UFC questions here. So, but personal bias, yeah, I mean, everybody's biased in terms of their decision making, and bias is just, like it's got such a bad kind of rap to it, but bias is just really a substitute for experience in some ways. All right, so if you have a personal bias towards something, it's usually because you have experience in that in one way or another. Okay, and so you're using that experience as a heuristic, basically a stand-in for a more rational decision. Now, a lot of people say, I get it. All right, so like bias in terms of like being biased or stereotyping, yes, we all recognize that's bad. But you got to understand that your brain is really good at actually developing bias, all right? It's almost instinctual in some respects. It's like, yeah, so if it's long and thin and green and has pointy ends, it's probably a snake, So, and that's a bias in some respects. You don't know that until you actually investigate it, but that might cost you dearly. And so you develop bias. All right. So, there's some really interesting stuff in developmental psychology that kind of points towards that in some respects. But bias introduces itself into the decision-making process, usually as a stand-in for actually making a more careful decision or a more informed decision. All right. And so, like, one of the most common biases out there is what we call confirmation bias. Now, this has been around for decades, and for some reason, I've just been hearing this more in the news and certain podcasts over the last couple of years, where people are finally maybe paying attention to this. But I tend to pay more attention to information that confirms our existing beliefs and less attention to information that is contrary to beliefs. And so that's known as confirmation bias. This isn't a bad thing. We all do it, okay? Because really, when it comes down to it, I mean, the place where you see this more than anywhere else, I mean, it's been in politics a lot last year. I get it and stuff like that. I don't want to talk about that. But, like specifically in sports, all right? So if you have a favorite team, and I have many favorite teams, okay? And so, I want to hear information that makes my team look good for next year. So their prospects and things like that, especially baseball season's coming up here pretty soon. So, I'm already starting to look at, it's like, what are the Yankees going to do this year? Who do they get in the roster? Who's in the rotation? Is it like what's going on in Youngstown? All this stuff. All right. And any good news that I hear about that just makes me feel better about our prospects for the year. And so I'll use that information when I make these arguments. And anything that's contrary to it is it's all right. We'll get over that. I mean, that's confirmation bias in action. All right. Does it get nasty? Yeah, of course. So there's certainly people who take that to an extreme. You do see it on the job. You'll see it from employees who are more experienced than from those who are new. Okay. And that's because, again, confirmation bias and bias in general does come from experience. And so the people who have more experience, especially if they come from like a different company within the same industry, or if they've worked their way up in the current company, you'll start to see, well, that's not the way we do things around here. We've always done it this way, so we'll just keep doing it that way. That's confirmation bias in some respects, just because it's like, hey, you got new ways of doing things and stuff like that. I don't really want to pay attention to that. Okay. And so you will find that. But we don't like existing beliefs to be challenged. That is absolutely true. If you've got a favorite team out there and stuff like that, go look at your divisional rivals and stuff like that and try and find something nice to say about them. And so, like if you're a Broncos fan, I want you to go and take a look at the Los Angeles Raiders and their horrible, horrible coach, John Gruden. And I want you to find something nice to say about them. I can't do it. And that's because I like the belief that they are evil. They need to be defeated at every turn. So that's confirmation bias right there. And trust me, if you're a Raiders fan, I got no hate for you. I love you, man. So I just don't like your team. But that's confirmation bias at work. This happens on the job, like I said, with employees who are typically a little bit more established. And you're going to have to deal with that early in your career as a manager. Okay, so if you come in, you're a brand new manager, maybe you've only got a year or 2 or 6 months with the company, and you're going to have employees who have 20 years with the company. They're not going to treat you very well. I'm just going to put, you just need to be, prepared for that, because really what's at operation is confirmation bias. They've seen plenty of managers come through there. They understand that, okay, this is an entry-level management job or something like that. You're going to do a year here, and then you're going to move up, and the company's going to ship as a brand new one. And so they might not treat you very well. Okay? So typically in situations like that, the thing that's working against you is this confirmation bias. Like I said, they've seen a lot of you come before them, before you got there. And so, all the bad things that those people did, they're just going to automatically assume that you're going to do them too. All right. So how do you combat that? You give people a chance. All right. You listen to them. All right, you take what they have to say seriously, and next thing you know, that kind of goes away. All right, it might take a little bit of time, but as long as you can establish yourself as someone who's actually somewhat empathetic and at the same point in time willing to listen to experience. All right, people do respect that. All right, so maybe not at first, but after you demonstrate it a couple times that you're genuine about it. It's not like, you listen to Bob, who's been there for 35 years, and then you immediately go do exactly the things that he told you not to do. They're not going to respect you very much then. So, be careful about that. All right. All right, conflict also causes poor decision making. So if you actually have situations where you have people who directly benefit from you making a decision in one direction versus the other. So like think about a promotion. So you say you've got a promotion that you can dish out, and you have two employees who are rivals and they're both, up for it. In one way or another, someone's going to win, someone's going to lose that one. So my advice on this, particularly, damn, man, I'm not feeling good. I don't know. I got my test yesterday. It's just got to be the allergies, man. So, but if you do have a situation where you have to pick winners and losers, don't shy away from it, okay? And the last thing that you do in a situation like this, which I know a lot of young managers, and particularly managers who aren't terribly comfortable with the exercise of power, which was something that we're going to talk about in great detail in the future. But if it's your job to pick winners and losers, do it, okay? And the thing you never do is split the baby, all right? On something like that. Because then nobody's happy. And what I mean by that is like, all right, so I have two people who want a raise, but I can only give one person a raise. Give it to the person who deserves it, and don't take the raise and split it in half and say, oh, I can give you 5, and I can give you half the raise, and I can give you half the raise. Don't do that, all right? So people do not respond well to that, especially if they are your star performers, okay? And think about it. You wouldn't want to be treated that way. All right, but there's this concept that fair means equal, okay, and that's not true, okay? So, in fact, that is distinctly unfair to both of those people, all right, if you do that. And so if you do have conflict in a situation where you have to make a decision, try and see through the conflict, but at the same point in time, don't ignore it, all right? So it's important to understand that, okay, if I'm going to pick a winner here, then I'm also picking a loser at the same time. I need to explain that decision to both of them. And whoever loses that one, you cannot expect them to be cool with it. So don't say, hey, we cool, bro, afterwards. Don't do that. We're distinctly not cool, dude. So let them be mad at you. It's okay. That's why you get paid, to be the manager. All right. UFC, here we go. Let's see if we can find some trivia. Let's see. For fans. Let's see. Let's see if I can find some general ones here. So. You're not going to give me answers here. I'm sorry. I need answers. Let's see what we got. Here we go. You guys are going to give me answers here. No, you're not. What UFC fighter am I? Okay. I don't know any of these people. Here we go. Let's try this one. You gonna give me answers? Let's see. Here we go. I gotta find one that I might have a shot at answering. So just for everybody else. Okay. What was the very first women's fight in UFC history? There's a good one. What was the very first women's fight in UFC history? And so remember, UFC is numbered. So I do know that. Yeah, okay. I think I actually watched that one. Might have been at a bar. Very first women's fight in UFC history. What was the number? What number was it? For a free quiz or homework. What was the number? So remember, UFC fights are numbered. So yeah, Jeff, you got the right. You got one of the fighters right. So very first fight. Yes, there you go. Ashley, you got it. It was UFC 157. So good job. So I wonder if you had to Google that like directly. What was the first women's fight in UFC history? Let's see. 157. Got it. Okay. All right, cool. Good job. So so yeah, you're giving me the date, all right, and so I asked for the number, but yes, so November 2012 would be correct, but I did specifically ask for the number, so I'm gonna get picky on you here. So that's okay. We'll do another one soon, but good job on that one, Ashley. So it was Ashley who got that one. Yes, it was. So 2017 or 157. So here we go. All right, so let's talk about improving quality of decision making, and then we'll end with this section here, which doesn't really matter. Excuse me. All right, so there are some ways that you can actually improve individual decision making, and so first thing you need to do is decide, is this a program or a non-program decision? And so a program decision, this is one that actually occurs on a regular basis. So we're going to do a new shift bid, what are we going to buy this year in terms of our budget, blah, 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 stuff like that. So program decision, things that are going to come up, regularly. So the first one, of course, is to use heuristic or mental shortcuts. What was going on with last year's budget? Let's just copy that. Okay, so what did we do on the last schedule? Let's just keep it the same, And so those do really save time. All right. So the other one here, and this has come out earlier in the chapter, I didn't talk about it specifically, but it's this idea of satisficing. And so satisficing is the good enough approach, okay? Meaning that, all right, is it a perfect decision? No. Does it cover most of the bases? Yeah. Is almost everybody happy with it? Yeah. Are a couple people upset that you didn't, consider the entire thing? Yeah, but that's okay. You'll live, and so that's satisfying. And so it's finding an optimal solution, not a perfect solution, all right? And so that usually saves a lot of time. And honestly, a lot of times when you use something like the rational decision-making model, like my example the other day, where everybody winds up going to either Chipotle or Chick-fil-A for lunch, that's satisfying, okay? Is everybody perfectly happy with that? No. Okay, so, but do most people like, yeah, I can go there. Yeah, okay, boom, that's satisfying, okay? Oh, I was there yesterday, but that's okay. I can get something different on the menu. Okay, satisfying, all right? So that does help. Non-program decisions, your big decisions that come up every now and then, like buy a house, what car am I going to buy? Where am I going to live? There are some ways that you can actually make this one a little bit more, a little bit better if you actually go through like the rational decision making process. Okay, so that will absolutely improve the quality of your decision. You'll be happier with the decision in the long run. Okay, getting advice from other people. So when you buy a house, that's why you get a realtor. Okay, hopefully somebody you can trust, because there are some shady realtors out there. Very careful about that. Same thing's true with financial advisors. Okay, you got to find yourself a good one. All right, so accountants not so much. I don't think I've ever met a shady accountant. Yeah, no lawyers. So, but yeah, definitely go talk to others who have actually been through it before. All right, so there are specific reasons why you want to do this. They can often tell you, like most of the time, the most valuable thing is not just this generates more option and reduces bias, but they can tell you the pitfalls. Okay, they can tell you the mistakes that they made, if they're being honest about it, when they had to make the same decision, and how those mistakes panned out over a certain amount of time down the road. And so they'll have a little bit more perspective on it. And so, job hunting is definitely one where you want to talk to people. Specifically, if there's a company or an industry or a specific job that you have kind of targeted, go find somebody who does that. All right. And, just talk to them and ask them for advice. I mean, people like being asked for advice. Okay. So if I was going to ask you for advice on something, fairly straightforward, or something that you really knew something a lot about. So if you know how to fix cars, and I asked you for advice, and well, what can I do to actually take care of my car a little bit better? I'm sure you would be like, oh, blah, 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 and you tell me all this great stuff. You're not going to lie to me in a situation like that, because you know that I'm not trying to get anything out of you, all right? When you're going for a job, it's a little bit different. So like a lot of the job stuff out there, they kind of point you, well, go find out who the hiring manager is and find out what they need. If I've done a lot of hiring, okay, and if someone starts coming knocking on my door and says, "Oh well, I'd like to do an informational interview with you," I'd be like, "Piss off, I'm busy, and I know all you want out of me is a job, all right." So, but if I was and this has happened to me in a couple situations where someone would come to me and say, "Hey, I noticed you here on like LinkedIn or something like that. I noticed you do this. Can you tell me how? Would you mind giving me some advice if I wanted to do the same thing that you do?" I mean, I'll chew your ear off all day at that point in time because I know that you're not trying to get anything out of me other than good advice. All right, and so yeah, talking to other people really does help inform your decision, and it will generate more alternatives. But more importantly, you'll avoid a lot of the pitfalls. Okay, getting creative about things, yeah, sure. So I mean, that's definitely something. So there's decision making techniques that are specifically designed to increase creativity, and so it kind of forces you to think about the problem in different like avenues, and so like the job one of the things that I like to do with folks is like, you'll ask them, well, what job do you want? And it's like, well, I don't know, man. I just want something that pays good. Well, why do you want something that pays good? Well, because I want to do blah, 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 I want to support my mom, something like that. So, and I mean, that's pretty typical in terms of like how you should think about like what job you want to go after. But one of my favorite exercises to do is it just kind of stimulates you, on a creative level, is to ask you is like, all right, so I want you to envision your perfect day 5 years from now. Okay, what does that day look like? Where are you waking up? Where do you live? What do tell me about the things in your bedroom. At that point in time, is there someone there with you? Is there not? Do you live in the city? Do you live out in the country? And if you go through an exercise from that perspective, then you can start to pencil in, okay, what am I going to need in order to be able to get there? All right. And so rather than thinking about what job do I need tomorrow, you start thinking about, okay, what kind of life do I want in 5 years? And then you start thinking about, okay, what kind of job would provide that life? All right. And so that's the creative process behind things like that. And so if you can get a little creative in terms of your decision making by just coming at it from a very different angle, usually you can make much, much better decisions. Conduct your research. Yeah. So especially things out there, when you're going to go out there and going to buy a house, yeah, you better be on Zillow or something, okay? You're going to get very familiar with the county website that has all the permits on it and stuff like that. Yeah, and then, it's like, okay, so this one's obvious. Come on, man. And then think about the long-term implications of your decision as well. All right, so the long-term implications are kind of one of those things where maybe you don't see it right off the bat, but sometimes when you do have to make one of these, heavy-duty long-term or, I mean, non-program decisions. So say like you're in a situation where, you're doing some hiring and you're hiring for a job that comes up once in a blue moon, and it's, say like somebody who's integral to your operation overall. You want to start thinking about that in some respects is like, you go through the interview process and you might look for the most qualified candidate, or at least, whoever looks that way on paper. But you have to understand that you're entering into a long-term relationship at that point in time. And so what you really should be interviewing for, especially if you're not going anywhere as a manager, you're perfectly happy in your job and stuff like that. And you want to, you've got the next 10 years booked. You might want to hire somebody who you think you can work with, even if they're a little bit underqualified. Okay, is this somebody that I get along with? Are they cheerful? Do they click well with my personality? And then think about it, because if this is a 10-year kind of gig, all right, and that person's going to be there for a long time, any skill set that they don't possess, they're going to be able to develop on the job. Okay, and so maybe in that situation, making a decision like that, you really should think about it with the long view in mind. All right. Excuse me. All right, just a little bit more here. Oh, actually, let's do one more UFC here question. Let's see. I did find a site here that's got a lot of cool stuff on here. Let's see. Oh, here's another Ronda Rousey question. Okay, here we go. So I remember this. I watched this one. Yeah, so maybe I do know a little bit more about UFC than I thought. So Ronda Rousey lost to Holly Holm in UFC 193. Which round did she lose in? At which round? So Ronda Rousey lost to Holly Holm in UFC 193. In which round did she lose? Go. Yeah, I remember watching this. Everybody was really pissed. Yes, that's right, Jeff. It was two. I remember watching that one, and it was really short. Not as short as that McGregor fight. I do remember seeing that one too at a friend's house, and they had paid so much money for like what was like a 9 second fight. Where he headbutted the dude. No, he shoulder struck him. Yeah, yeah. No, you're right there, Rayanne. But Jeff beat you to it, so it was definitely round two. I remember that. Her career never really recovered from that, did it? Come to think of it. Um, yeah, because she had that reputation going there for a while. Um, yeah, okay. All right, we'll do one more here and just yeah, yeah, very good job, Jeff. So, see, you get paid in UFC today. You just banged that one out right off the bat. You probably saw that fight too. So, all right, here we go. Last piece here. This will only take a minute, and we'll be out of here in the next 10. So, group decision making. So, group decision making is kind of a misnomer because rarely do people make decisions as a group, even if you have a group. Chances are 9 times out of 10, there's somebody in the group who's actually making the decision. Okay, so it might look on the surface as a participative process, but really when it comes down to it, there's somebody in there who's making a decision, and that's just because like groups, and we'll talk about this more when we get way down here, when we start talking about teamwork. Yeah, teamwork. So that's kind of the middle section of the course. We'll start talking about group dynamics and things like that. But the thing that remember about group dynamics is that, like, if you get a group that's larger than two, so any group of three or more, someone's going to rise as a leader in that group. And so think about the group projects you've done in school. All right, so if a professor assigns you a group project and there's three of you, eventually somebody in that group says, "Oh, well, let's just do it this way." All right, and so that person is taking on a leadership role in that case, and everybody else in the group is kind of like, "Okay, fine. You want to drive? Feel free to drive. Just tell me what I need to do." All right, so they acquiesce to that. If you get in larger groups, so anything, some of you may have done projects that involved this many people, but those of you in sports, especially team sports, I know you've seen this. All right, where if you have generally, one of my kind of heuristics, my rule of thumbs on this one, is that if you have a group of five or more, the group itself will kind of split into fractions. It'll have a strong fraction and a weak fraction, or faction, sorry. Fractions are from my stats class. So factions. And so you'll have a dominant side and then kind of a counterculture kind of side. All right. Within there where, someone will challenge leadership, lose that fight, but still at the same point in time be the leader of the resistance, so to speak. And so for those of you who are involved in team sports, I know you've seen that. Okay. Group projects, I usually anything over five would be like, or anything like five, anything over three, I think would be disastrous, in terms of actually trying to make a decision. But in those cases, someone will eventually take the lead. All right. And that all makes like the group decision making process much more complicated. Now, the one good thing that group decisions, the one thing that group decisions are good at is brainstorming. Okay, so if you get enough people in a group, especially if it's a situation where they don't have to participate it down the road, and so you're just getting enough people together and saying, okay, let's come up with a whole bunch of ideas of like how we can actually accomplish this project, fully knowing that not all of you will be involved in the project. You're going to get tons of great ideas. All right. Now, if everybody in that group is going to be involved in the project, boom, that's when all your team dynamics kick in, because people start to think about it as like, oh God, I don't want to do all this work. So let's not generate a lot of ideas here, guys, because otherwise we're going to have to do a lot more work, Or likewise, other people will be like, well, how do I lead this thing? Or other people will be like, man, how do I get out of this thing? And so that's when all those team dynamics will kind of kick in. in some respects. But if they don't have like a stake in the game, all right, um, you know, well, actually, the one that you probably see the most is where you have individuals who's like, well, can I get my best idea out there first because I want to lead this project and I want to look good in front of the boss. That's probably the most common thing. Excuse me, that you see. But at the same point in time, there are the people will hold back in situations like that if they know that you're going to have to be involved in it. And so brainstorming, as long as it involves like no commitment to making you do the things that you actually talk about doing, it can be really good to actually have a bunch of brains in the same room. All right. Now, of course, that's heavily outweighed by all the disadvantages of groups. Of group decision making. So, first of all, group decision making rarely results in an optimal solution. Okay, just because it involves a lot of people who want different things and have different motives. The other thing that happens is like a lot of times it actually does a really good job of killing off good ideas. All right, because somebody just fundamentally, no, we're not going to do it that way. And so you instantaneously learn, it's like, oh, excuse me for opening my trap. I'll just shut up and wait till the end of the meeting now, and so then I'll go back and do my own thing. And that happens more so than anything else. And then you get this idea of what's known as groupthink, all right, which I'm sure you've all heard of. It's like this, boogeyman of all like group decision-making processes and stuff like that. But it's common. It is hands down the most common way in which groups actually start to operate after a time. All right. So yeah, you should kind of get used to it. And even though like every business management book out there, oh, you should not do this, blah, 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 just expect it. Okay. So if people have been making decisions as a group for a long time and the group hasn't completely fallen apart, the reason why it hasn't fallen apart in some respects is because they've learned to kind of like anticipate each other's, different like contributions and expect things, and align those expectations with what they actually get. That's groupthink. All right. And that's where people just like, well, we've always done it this way, so let's just keep doing it. All right. Now, I'm not saying that's a good thing. All right. I'm just saying it is a thing. Okay. And you should get used to it. But it's also one of the reasons why, making decisions as a group. I mean, all you have to do is go down to city council and you'll see this stuff. Okay. So let alone watch C-SPAN for a little bit. It's just basically groupthink occurs so that people like can exist with each other without killing each other. All right. Or completely undermining each other in one way or another. And really, I mean, it just speaks to the fact that making decisions as a group is really, really difficult and usually a bad idea. I mean, it's cool that we want to get everybody involved and stuff like that. But I would argue that leadership is a fundamental and very, very, potent replacement for group decision making. If you have somebody who's a leader and is willing to be a leader and willing to accept responsibility for that, that's awesome. All right. So that's much, much better than trying to muddle your way through something. Okay. Which is what, groupthink and basically all decisions made as a group kind of devolve into. If you don't believe me on this one, go into a class at some point in time and try and like get the entire class to go along with, something in terms of like, well, let's see if we can get this due date changed by a week, or something like that. 99% of the people would just be like, whatever, that's groupthink. Okay, so you're right to do so. At that time, the professor's going to say no. I'm not going to stick my head up. And I mean, to particularly do that in a class with a really, kind of like hard-nosed professor, and you're not going to be able to rally people around a decision as a group in that case. So maybe that's not the best example, but at the same point in time, I've seen people try. So, and you're kind of like it's like trying to push this the boulder up the hill, so to speak. All right. So, and the book does give us some suggestions here on how to actually form a quality group. In order to actually do the group decision-making process, and Dr. Gilbraith and I do this with, he does it, I think, in his classes, to tell you the truth, because I think he assigns group projects. But the best way to build a group is to actually focus on the group before you focus on whatever the task is, all right? And so if you have to make a decision as a team, and so your boss wants everybody involved in this decision, blah, kind of thing, okay, all right, we can do it that way. But first and foremost, let's talk about us as a group before we actually tackle that thing that he wants us to decide. Okay. And so the thing about that is like, okay, so of this group, who around here is in charge? Okay. Who has final say? How are we actually going to make this decision? And what are we going to do if the decision turns out poorly? So, meaning who's going to have to live with the responsibility? And I mean, that's the flip side of leadership. Is if you decide to take leadership and start making these decisions and assume that mantle of responsibility, you also assume responsibility for the outcome. All right. So now other people might screw it up and it might completely blow up and blah blah blah. But it's still your decision. You were the one who said, "Hey, we're going to go this way." Regardless of what happens in the engine room, you still actually smash into the iceberg. Okay. And so you have to be really, really careful about that. And so if you talk about those things before you actually dive into the task, because a lot of times, especially like think about the group projects you've done at work or at school, it's like, boom, here you go. Immediately, the first time you meet, even if it's right in that first class, you're already thinking about, well, how do we do this? Okay, who's going to do what and blah, blah, blah. You don't focus on the group itself where it's like, all right, so we're going to split up the work, obviously. Let's not talk about that first, all right, because we know we're going to do that. But who's going to take responsibility for what here? Okay, so are you going to be the person who turns it in? Are you going to be the person who actually interfaces with the professor? Are you going to be the person who actually is in charge of the group? And so if the other two people don't agree on something, the final decision is yours. I rarely see people do that. Okay, so and everyone says, well, how do you improve group projects? Well, number one, don't assign them, and number two, if you do assign it, make sure that you make sure that it's very clear that one person is actually in charge of that group. Okay, and they're going to take responsibility for it. And students don't like to do that, of course, because you're all like equals, right? I get it. So, but out there in the working world and even in school, and even those of you who play team sports, you know this as well. All right, you do need leadership. Leadership is a fundamental component of all groups and all teams. All right. And so, yeah, that's why the group decision-making process is basically garbage. So we'll just sum that up today. All right. So we're at the hour mark. Oh, excuse me. Almost exactly here. And so let's do one more UFC quiz. Now, remember, if you've already got one right today, you're eliminated. All right. And so, this is going to be a toss-up here for those of you who haven't actually done it. Yet. Oh my gosh, this site has a lot of stuff on it. Let's see. Let me see here. Oh, I was just talking about him. Let's see if we got a Conor McGregor question here. So I swear that guy's gonna wind up dead at some point in time. I'm telling you. So the guy just, it's gonna be cocaine or something. I don't know. So, but every now and then you just see someone who just lives hard and fast. And you're like, man, you're not gonna make it to 50, are you? So let's see. Oh, here's one right here. Oh, okay. Yeah, I did. No, I did not know this. All right. Who did Conor McGregor beat in his UFC debut in 2013? Who did he beat in his debut back in 2013? That's right. After only 1 minute into the first round. Wow. So who was his first victim in the UFC? Go. All right. For free quiz or homework. Oh, boo. Yeah, you probably know this one, don't you? Yeah. Yeah. No, just get one. One per day. So who did he beat back in 2013? Yeah, I know you'll have to Google this one. I didn't know it. So yes, that's good. Yes, absolutely. So good job, Rian. You got it. Brimage. So I think that's how you pronounce that. So yeah, debut fight 2013. Let's see. Won the fight via TKO after only 1 minute into the first round. So he would win the knockout of the night for the performance. So there you go. So yeah, TKO. Oops, you were wrong. Oh, you would have gotten it wrong. Ha ha. That's okay. Yeah. No, Brimage. So good job, Rian. So you get one too. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and pull the pin here. I'm gonna hop in the car and head on down to campus here and see how much of a ghost town it is. But I will post a poll here within the next day. All right. And you please take that so I have a good idea of, how many of you intend to come to class. Otherwise, we will. And again, you can absolutely do the whole thing online too. I'm just curious as to how many of you are actually interested in coming to class. So answer it honestly. All right. Understand that whether you want to come or not has no bearing on your grade whatsoever. Okay. And so it's just for planning purposes on my part. Excuse me. And we will get we'll get a plan together for next Wednesday. But remember, YouTube Mondays YouTube days always. All right, for now until the end of the semester, we're gonna have to see like what's going on with Wednesdays and stuff. And hopefully we can get some FaceTime in because that's fun stuff. All right. So as much as I love doing the YouTube, it is fun, and I know it's easy for you, and it's very, very chill and very, very relaxed, and I like that. But at the same point in time, I'd like to get some FaceTime in just because I don't know, it's good to talk about these things with your peers as well. And so if we can do that, we will. But yes, take the poll. Let me know what you want. You'll see an announcement. I'll kick out an announcement, and so just click on it. It'll take you exactly 10 seconds to take, if that. All right. And so please do that once you see it. And like I said, we'll talk about the results on Monday. Okay. All right. Well, that's all I got for you today. And so have a wonderful weekend. I hear it's supposed to snow tonight. Yay. Especially after yesterday, it was like, what, 70 something? I drove down to Pueblo. It was like summertime, man. It was great. So hopefully it's, not too bad as far as the snow and the cold goes. And we can get back to that here really soon because, 70 degrees in February is pretty awesome. All right, but that's all I got for you. I'll stick around here for a minute or two just in case you have any questions you want me to answer. But the rest of you, you're off the hook. We'll see you on Monday. Have a wonderful weekend. No, snow. I know, Harley. Yeah. So I don't know how much is supposed to snow here in the Springs. Let's check it out. So, let's see. Where's my weather? Let's see. How many people are in our class? I think we're up to 30. So, I'm not gonna dox everybody by looking at it. So, but yeah, I think it's like 20, 26 or something like that. So, this one, we've been up here. I've got 28 folks on the live stream as far as playbacks. It's going down now because I said see y'all. But yeah, no, I get that too. And quite honestly, just remember, it's fine, whichever one you want to do. If you want to come, great. If you don't, great. You're still going to be able to complete the course because we're in the Zoom room. And so it might be one of those things where you just phone from home. That's fine. So I have no problems with that. You too, Harley. Take care. So let's check out Pueblo here real quick. You bet, Rianne. Let's see. Precip. Oh, yeah, look at that. It's supposed to get some snow tonight, too. 10 p.m.? Boo! Oh, yuck. Man, I hate 40-degree weather. It's like the worst. So I'd rather have it be 10 degrees than 40 degrees. So, because then you just commit to not going outside. All right, 30 seconds. Got any questions? Punch them in there. Otherwise, we're going to pull the pin here. Precip. When's this supposed to start? 4 p.m.? Ooh, yeah, I'll be on. Oh, never mind. My class is at 4 p.m. So this is 4 p.m. right here. Yeah, okay. I'll be all right. Bomb cyclone. Yay. So is that the stuff that comes from Canada? I'm not sure. So, black. Yeah, I don't want any snow. But what else? We'll make it work. All right, 10 seconds. Got any questions? Punch them in there. Otherwise, have a wonderful weekend. Oh, yep, everybody's dropping out of there. So, cool stuff. Have a good weekend, and we'll catch you all on Monday. See you then.